Hey, welcome to Gold Scratch. So this is Friday. I promised that we're going to have another Pontiac 389. So we got it coming in right now. It's all the way from Traverse City, Michigan, and customer is going to back in here. We're going to unload it, and we're actually going to do the teardown of this engine on YouTube. So here we go. Customer's name is Todd Brown, by the way. We're good right there. This is an original 65 engine that out of Todd's 65 GTO. And 65s are critical years. 64 technically is the first year ever for a muscle car. According to the definition, putting a full-size car engine in a mid-size car. And so 65 was one of the first years. You can see by the rocker arms, somebody's been hot rodding it already, but it's all going to come apart. We're going to check everything out thoroughly, and after we see what we got, we'll decide on a strategy for building it. Ready to go up?
All right. I think we are free.
Okay. This is my customer, Todd Brown. Todd drove all the way here from Traverse City, Michigan this morning. So thank you for that, Todd, and for trusting me with your prized possession. This is a 1985, sorry, I said that yesterday, a 1965 Pontiac GTO 389. So I think I said it before, but these engines were basically built for full-size cars like Bonnievilles. And Lorian decided to make them an option in Tempest, and that's how the muscle car era was born, basically. It was pretty easy for him because the exterior dimensions of this engine are exactly the same as a 326. There's no big block and small block in Pontiac, so it wasn't really that hard for them to do that because it's only the internal parts that are different. So anyway, Todd's in the process of fully restoring a 1965 GTO, and I'm going to let him tell us all about it. Go ahead, Todd.
Well, Alan, thanks for having me here. I'm really glad that I ran across your YouTube channel and found out about you, because I've been searching for quite some time for the right person to do the engine rebuild for this particular project, and I'm 100% convinced after talking with you over these past few weeks and watching your videos that you're the man for the job. So thank you very much for taking on this project for me.
Appreciate it.
The car I purchased, I'm not sure how long, between 10 and 15 years ago. I bought the car solely for the purpose of having something to do in retirement. And I've been retired now for a little over 5 years. And about 4 years ago, I started the restoration on the GTO. The car came completely apart. It's in my workshop back in Michigan in 1,000 different pieces. I'm getting ready to throw some paint on the car, hopefully here this spring. And so we're at that stage where it's appropriate to begin thinking about the engine. The engine was running and driving when I pulled it out of the car. It wasn't running well, but it has some internal issues on it. The previous owner or owners didn't really use the appropriate oil. There was no zinc in the oil.
Right.
And so the camshaft and the lifters are galled on it. And on the number one cylinder, particularly the intake valve, when you pull it apart, you'll be able to see it.
We'll be seeing all that. We're going to tear it apart here in a few minutes. So.
But, yeah, I'm happy to be here and really excited for this process. And
okay,
be really excited the day that I come pick it up and take it back home.
We're going to dyno this engine. And do we have a dyno date yet? Oh, we haven't got a dyno date yet, but we're working on it. We'll get a dyno date for it when we see the engines coming together. The biggest issue on building any engine this day and age is getting the right parts. So once it's together, I could have it built in a few days if I had to. But getting it apart, finding out what we need, do all the measurements, measure every critical dimension, give Todd that information, and together we'll decide what to do next. You got to plan the compression ratio, the camshaft size, how much power does he want, what are the priorities, reliability, economy, all that stuff, and we'll go from there. So let's get it on the stand.
I do have a Facebook page dedicated to the restoration of the car. It's called 1965 Pontiac GTO Restoration. And from day one with the car through its teardown and all the stuff that I do, it's not professionally done like your videos are here. It's just me with my iPhone or with another handheld camera, and with all the background noise, my dogs running around bothering things. It's pretty fun. I did it mainly so for my friends and family that they could kind of watch with the process as well. So
good. Please remember to like and subscribe. Good time to ask. I usually forget till it's too late at the very end. And the next clip, we're going to get this on the test stand and get our mother thumper working. They're going to tear it apart and see what we got inside. Okay, we're back. We got Todd's engine on the build stand, and we're going to do a moment of truth coming up here, as we don't know any more about what's inside than anybody else does. So
fingers crossed.
We're going to process his. He got the valley pan off. Now he's had that off already. He already knows that he got a valve lifter in bad shape. The rocker arm's got to come off, and the cylinder head's got to come off. Actually, in a Pontiac, one of the nice things about Pontiac, if you work on cars, is you don't have to take the distributor out to get the intake manifold, which is pretty cool, actually, because small block Chev and most other cars, you do. So, and I'm sure wherever cars I miss, somebody will be giving me a comment and tell me you forgot that. So we'll probably start, we'll get that valley, or get the rocker arms off first and get that going. So, maybe I'll get you to throw them in the thing there, Todd, just so I can keep going.
See, the first mistake.
That's even better. Somebody put roller rockers on it. I'm not sure what they were trying to accomplish, because roller rockers, if it's the same ratio, don't really make much difference in power, but they look cool, that's for sure, and I do use them in lots of applications. You can go ahead and take those rocker arms off. Put them in one of these containers. Doesn't matter where they come from or where they go. It's all good. There's probably good rocker arms for another application, actually.
They actually look to be in pretty decent shape.
Oh yeah, they're probably fine. Yeah, most of them. This kind of an engine doesn't work them very hard, right? So unless you have really big spring pressures or something goes wrong, put that in here. And we are down to, let's take that valley pan off. First of all, ½ inch. Here's ½ inch right here.
Oh, thank you. You offered me gloves. I should have taken them.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have. They're going to get you dirty, so.
I don't mind helping.
You're doing fine. It's okay. So this valley pan usually has to be pried off, but there's another nice feature of Pontiac. So most engines, small block Chevs are one, the hot oil splashes on the bottom of the intake manifold, and that hot oil heats up the air fixture coming in and warms it up and actually causes a reduction in power. There are remedies for that. Of course, that's why you have air gap manifolds. But a Pontiac had that all figured out, because you don't have any hot oil getting anywhere near the bottom of the intake manifold in a Pontiac. So that's a pretty nice feature. So maybe you can show us, you already know, I guess, is it one of these guys that's flat?
Yeah, you can see
Oh, you can see it right there, yeah.
Yep.
You can see it right there. I'm not
I think
turning
that's,
it over
I
right
think
now,
that's
but
the intake valve, is it not?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exhaust is
And you
on
can
the outside.
and you can
intake
see on
tanks.
the edge of the lifter itself where it's chipped off.
Yeah, well, there you go. Let's take the lifter out and see now what. Oh, it came out. That's pretty good. But there you go. That's, you don't need to look at any further. That's a typical failure of a valve lifter. Instead of having a little bit of convex on them, they're concave, and that one swelled into the process of
interestingly
failing.
enough,
And you can see the top of the lobe of the cam as well. So we knew that before Todd got here. He already knew that. But
I actually put a scope.
Oh, you did? Yeah, I got it
in there, and I could see that intake valve was not lifting all the way, and that's what led me down the road to unfortunately discover that we had this problem.
So Pontiac, somebody's asked a question before too. They were worried because Pontiacs only have 10 cylinder head bolts, where small block Chevs, for example, have 17, but the Pontiacs are half-inch bolts, and the Chevs are only 7/16 bolts. So that makes up for a lot. I actually calculated the clamping force for somebody, and the Chevs are a little more. But having said that, Pontiacs, to my knowledge anyway, in my experience, don't have an issue with head gasket failure if you're at least in the realm of 10-to-1 compression or something like that. So typically when you torque an intake manifold or a cylinder head, you start at the center and work out. So if you're taking it apart, you go the other way. You start at the outside and work in, right? So you need to get an extension. Just a second. If I can reach it. So yeah, we can point out some interesting things about Pontiacs. The water pump is part of the timing cover in a Pontiac, which is different. In most other engines, it bolts right to the block. And so is the fuel pump, part of the timing cover housing, which is a pretty elaborate piece, actually. So let's get this guy apart. They're all loosened, so it's all yours.
Excellent.
There's dowels, shouldn't fall off, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not going to turn it. Don't get too close to it in case it. Where'd you put the bolt? That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to take them out?
Sure.
So, one of the moments of truth when you take the head off and see what you got. It may just come off. I may have to pry it off. Let's make sure we got all the bolts out. Count them, 10. And there you go.
Beautiful. Wow.
Just like that. Okay. Put that
Get out of
over
your way.
Yeah. Maybe we should take a look at the combustion chambers. Look pretty nice, actually. There's no damage to them anyway. If the camshaft is what took this engine down, then they won't be. They'll be fine. We'll probably do a valve job on them anyways. We'll check the combustion chamber volume, calculate the compression ratio, which will be part of our decision making in terms of selection of camshaft and head gaskets and everything else. So I think I'll move this guy over here just because it's heavy. There you go.
Brought the dipstick with you.
Dipstick came too, did it? Part of it.
It's down by your foot.
Yeah, that's only part of the dipstick, by the way. The expensive part is under the oil pan. So. There you go. This is the easy part, the dipstick.
Well, it doesn't look too terrible to me.
No, it looks good. That's a unique piston style. I've never seen.
There's not much of a lip on
the eyebrows on there. No, you might be able to hone this right out to original size. You never know. So, yeah, it doesn't look terrible. That's a unique looking piston top, though. As you see, they got valve reliefs on both the intake and exhaust side. Pontiacs are unique. I've talked about this before. Number one cylinders there. 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8. Only engine I know of anyway. where the number one piston is not the front piston. Number two piston is the one that's the front of the engine. What was DeLorean thinking anyways? Even though he probably didn't have anything to do with it, but it's kind of fun to make fun of him. So, okay, I think we'll get all the lifters out and see if we can get them out. I'll give you a container for them and I'll hand them to you. How's that, Todd? So,
Well, I can.
a lot of times when cams fail, lifters are hard to get out because when they get rolling at the bottom, they create a little flange in the bottom of the lifter. Now you can just go ahead and pull them out if you want. It's all going to go in the junk anyway. So, what happens to the old stuff? I have a friend, a guy that goes by here every day that goes to the scrapyard with it. That's what he does. He checks my driveway every day, and sometimes I have a contribution for him, sometimes I don't, but I will have here pretty soon. So actually, so far, other than
with the exception of that one, they all look not terrible.
That's not unusual, just have one fail. Yeah, it does happen. It's kind of strange, right? But that one might have got messed up on the startup even. I don't know, hard to say. It does happen, though.
That's actually encouraging. I'm
I'm
grateful for that too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're back. So a couple important things to find out when you're tearing an engine down. This is Todd's 389. Is what the deck height is. In other words, how far the piston is down the hole, because we want to get the quench right. So the quench is the distance down the hole plus the thickness of your head gasket. So you need to know how far it is down the hole. Typically for an OEM engine, General Motors, Pontiac, Chevrolet, it's around 30,000 7/8 plus or minus, maybe 25,000 7/8. So that's kind of what we anticipated. But as you'll see when we get a closer look, this engine's been built before. It's bored 30 over. It's got newer pistons in it. And the deck height is on this corner. We already checked two corners. On this one, it was actually only a couple thousand 7/8. And on this corner, we got, I think, around 8,000 7/8. We're going to demonstrate that. And so someone's decked this block in the past. So when it's been bored, we'll actually measure the lift on the camshaft after. Maybe it's a big cam too. Maybe that's one of the other issues. So we'll do that as well. But we need to assure the deck height. So a lot of times I only do one corner because they're pretty consistent. When you get a measurement that you don't like, check the other corner. Maybe the block's distorted, or maybe it was milled incorrectly or something. So we did get a variation of, that's 0 to 2 thou. This is 8 to 10 thou. So if you do the math, it's 6 thou to 8 thou maybe variation, which is quite a bit. And we'll redo all that when it's all, the pistons are all cleaned up. We just scraped the top off the pistons. And so if Alec can come around, I got to turn my, if you go that way, Alec, I got to turn my back here. I don't have to now. So we got to make sure, I got to put the deck tool back on the block. We've cleaned the block off, so we end the piston off so we can get it pretty accurate. Now, when you're measuring a bearing clearance, plus or minus a tenth is important. When you're measuring this, plus or minus a thou is fine. So we just want to make sure we're at top dead center, first of all. So let's go back up and turn that to 0. Do a little trial on it. There, go back to 0. Okay, so it's pretty simple. If we know that's 10 thousandths, zeroed right now, we go to the deck and we're showing 10,000 7/8. So this corner of the block, the piston's down the hole, 10,000 7/8. Now we've already made multiple checks. It varies depending where you check it, 8 thou to 10 thou, but that's enough to know where we're at. We certainly know we're not going to be decking this block. We're probably going to get away with a standard 39 thou head gasket, and that's good because they are a lot more economical than especially Cometic or something like that where you need a special thickness head gasket. So the next thing we've got to do, this is a 389, it's not a 400, so I got kind of tricked because I'm so used to doing 400s. I know the numbers in my head, but we didn't know the numbers for a 389. So the 400 is 4.120 standard bore. So 30 thou would be 4.150 because it's 30 thou over. These pistons are not original pistons. Spin board 30 thousandths. So we're 4.062, which is basically a 4 1/16. This is almost the same engine as a 396 Chev, very close to the same dimensions. Same stroke, 3.75 stroke. So 4.062 plus 30 thou, 4.092. So we set our micrometer at 4.092, and we zero the micrometer, we zero the dial bore gauge on the micrometer. We know what that is. And I got 0 there. And now we can see what piston bores are. So we've already done this. I'm just going to show you. That's 2 thousandths. You can see that, Alec, pretty good. 2 thousandths. So we got basically between 2 and 3 thousandths. There's one that's 2.5 thousandths. And that's enough to show you. That looks like that one's just about right on 2 thousandths. So it looks like this engine was rebuilt at some point. It's been bored, 30 thou over pistons in it. So they're probably hyper-eutectic or cast pistons, because typically the clearance for a forged piston should be probably 4 to 5 thousandths. We only got 2 thousandths, so that's typically the right clearance for a cast piston or a hyper-eutectic piston. So the good news is we may be able to get away with hot tanking this block, honing it, rehoning it, and changing the rings and bearings and putting it back together. And there's probably no reason we can't do that. We've got to change the camshaft, of course, and we'll find out what camshaft it has. So the next thing we want to check, so we already know this engine's been rebuilt. The block's been decked, which is unusual. There's 30 thou over pistons. So it's been rebuilt and bored and decked, so a lot of work. So the next thing is you've got a stock cam in it. So I'm not sure about 389s, but 400s, the stock cam is typically around 407 or 409 total lift. So we're going to find, there's only one lobe of the cam that looks like it's really bad. Maybe others a little bit, but they look pretty good. We're going to check a lift lobe that we know is good and see what the lift is. And that's going to tell us likely whether the cam is an aftermarket cam or not. So we get an idea of that. So we've got the setup on the lifter, on the lobe right now, 0. So you can see when I first start turning it, not going to have any movement at all. And go here, there we go. Whoop. Following it. We're just trying to get an approximate number. So watch, you're going to start moving in a second here. There we go. There's 1, 2, 3, and just a little over 3. 310 thou. So 300 times 1.5 is 450. So 310 is 465. So this is not a stock camshaft. This is an aftermarket cam. So somebody's hot rodded this engine, and with a lot of good intention, and other than one cam lobe going, probably would have worked out fine. So we're going to have to keep going and see what we find next. We got a couple of pistons out, and we're learning as we go. One note Alec wants me to mention, we did it. The first piston was a little hard to get out, so we took a wire brush and cleaned just the carbon off the top. There's virtually no ridge in this engine at all. This engine's been rebuilt before. So once we clean the carbon off, pistons are coming out a lot easier. And we're going to look in there and see the port's got to be honed. It's already 30 over. I've already mic'd these bores. They're right on the money. We've only got 2 to 3 thou piston clearance with these pistons. And the pistons themselves look pretty good too. Clean that off a little bit so you can see. There's carbon and all that stuff. That's not pretty, but there's minimal wear. Now this engine did lose a cam lobe, and so some of that shrapnel, if you lose a lot of them and they all get into the oil, they'll make a mess. But this is pretty good. It hasn't really done any damage other than the cam itself. And I think we already mentioned that we measured the cam lift, and it's about 465, I think, something like that. So it's not the OEM cam. These cams are only like 407. Definitely been a hot rodded deal, and probably if that cam lobe had not failed, Todd would be driving it around like this, but it did. So now we have to fix it. So that's where we're at. Hey, welcome back. Todd Brown's 389 Pontiac engine from a 65 GTO. Just going to round it up here. So in the previous session of this video, we've checked as much as we need to know. We checked rough check of all the cylinder walls. They're fine. The crankshaft's fine. The bearings, we took all the bearings out of it. Rod and main bearings, we've had them all out, and they look fine. And we're going to replace them all. But when Todd brought this engine, it was a running engine in the car when he bought it. And what we found right off the bat, the intake valve, lobe on the camshaft, number one cylinder, pretty much rounded right off. We showed that. And that's probably why it didn't run good. And this engine's been hot rodded before. It's got 30 over pistons. It's the camshaft. We measured it's 465 lift. That's not a stock Pontiac camshaft. It had roller rocker arms on it. So it's been rebuilt and hot rodded before and probably ran great, except one of the camshaft lobes went, and for whatever reason, I don't know. So we know enough to know what we're going to do. So as soon as we're done here, we're going to finish getting the cam out, take the crank out. I will check every dimension on the rods and mains of the crank, record that on an Excel spreadsheet, check cylinder wall, piston to cylinder wall clearance and all the cylinders, record all that, and then finish completely disassembling, take the accessories off the block, and it's going to the machine shop tomorrow. It's going to be hot tank, all the plugs taken out of it, the frost plugs taken out of it, and Magnaflux hot tanked. And then we're going to have them put a new hone in it. The hone's in pretty good shape, but we're going to put brand new rings, and so we're going to re-hone it. Not taking any more metal out of it. It's got the clearances are good right now. We already just demonstrated that. So we'll reuse the pistons. We'll buy new rings, new bearings. New camshaft to be named. We'll have future videos. We have some ideas, but we haven't decided on the camshaft yet. On the cylinder heads, I have to check them over a little more. I'm thinking, in the industry where I came from, we have a motto, no more or less than it needs. And as I said already, this engine would probably be running fine if it wasn't for the camshaft. The heads are probably fine from what we can see. We'll have to completely clean them. I'll check combustion chamber volume. I'll check for the valve guides, for any valve guide wear. We'll check them over thoroughly and check the valve springs, make sure the valve springs are compatible with the camshaft, and probably reuse them without anything else, no machine shop work. And to be confirmed, I haven't done that yet, so I'll get back to you on that. So the cylinder heads will get done. So we need to order a new camshaft. We've got to figure that out. We'll go back with the same pistons. The crankshaft looks great. All the journals look great. We'll mic every single one and record it, but it looks like we're in good shape. And we get it back, we'll reassemble it. We got to buy an intake manifold for it, a few other accessories. And this one will get assembled and put on the test stand, and I have a dyno date on June the 15th for this engine now. So previous slide and previous clip, I didn't have one. I have a dyno date now. So June the 15th, Todd's going to come back and we're going to have a fun day. He said he's going to bring the coffee and donuts. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching Gold's Garage.